Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right. The big government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, SM Gibson.
My name is SM Gibson, and I am your host of Anti-Media Radio, your alternative to the corporate mainstream agenda coming from your television sets and newspapers all around the world. If you're looking for the truth, you have found it here tonight. It is July the 28th, 2015. So far in 2015, since January the 1st, 668 Americans have been killed by police officers so far this year. And that includes one Mr. Sam DuBose on July the 19th in Cincinnati, Ohio, that we will be talking about here a little later on. There have also been 68 police officers that have died in the line of duty. 18 of those came from automobile accidents, 11 of those came from heart attack, and 17 came from gunfire. From our good allies, Saudi Arabia, 104 beheadings so far this year. And the city of Chicago, with their strict gun laws, 1,563 people have been shot so far this year. 274 homicides. Just over the past weekend in the city of Chicago, there were 7 homicides and 41 people shot. 41 people shot over the weekend. That is an absolutely chilling statistic. Joined in the studio, as always, Mr. Shannon Madden. Shannon, how you doing tonight, sir?
We got some stuff to talk about tonight. Great.
A lot going on right now. I don't even know where do we start off with everything.
Vermin Supreme, absolutely. That's my man. I've discussed this before. Sometimes to get us really pumped up and amped up for this show, we'll cut on Fox News. I'll say it. We don't watch it to glean any information. It's strictly entertainment value. Probably almost as entertaining as the WWE. Almost as entertainment. And our boy Trump was on there tonight. Kind of watching the Don. And it got us to talking for a moment. We've kind of laughed and bantered about the name of Vermin Supreme. I mean, the guy wears a rubber boot on his head. I think he is an absolute perfect candidate to represent how much of a joke the office of the President of the United States really is. I mean, a paid TV spokesperson, that's about what we've got. Do you really think in your heart of hearts that President Obama is actually coming up with all of these great ideas that he's cramming up our ass? Hell no. Those wheels were set into motion long before he came into office. When they sat him down initially, it was basically to tell him, look, we've already got this thing working and rolling the way we're going to have it roll. You just get and smile on camera And by the way, I want you to meet this executive and this corporate executive, because these are the people that you're really doing business for.
It's the oligarchy.
Oh, absolutely, baby.
It is the oligarchy that we are in today, and it's sad and unfortunate, the theater that everything has become. At some point, there had to have been a dignity to the office. At least it was perceived dignity, even though I think behind the scenes, these presidents were as crooked as any politician we have today. It's not like people have become more corrupt, but there was this perceived image to the office. And now, the curtain's been torn away, so to speak, which I think is a good thing, but at the same time, it's become idiocracy. Like, we just literally have, reality TV stars that are winning by double digits in the polls. And it just goes to show you what a joke the entire thing has become. And so to suggest that Berman Supreme should be president, why not have a guy that is giving away free candy and has a boot on his head? Because at least he's acknowledging the joke that everything has become.
Absolutely. And I think he's probably vastly more intelligent or intelligently superior than most of the candidates we have on the field right now. And I'm talking about on both sides of the fence, too. And as far as I know, hasn't arranged to have anybody murdered like, I don't know, half of our field of candidates have. We can get into that some other show.
Yeah, I tell you what, speaking of the presidency, I really want to talk about this story here before we go down the road of Sam DuBose, which, if you don't know about that story, we're going to get into that, and it's just absolutely terribly sad. But Barack Obama and the White House, has released a statement, finally, over the petition to have Edward Snowden pardoned, brought back to America, no harm, no foul. It reached 100,000 about a year ago, and now they're sitting at like 167,000. The White House refused to respond to it about a year ago. And now they have finally come out and politely said, in no uncertain terms, and I say politely, no, they don't care. That 167,000 Americans signed a petition to pardon this man, that they could care less. They're not even going to entertain the idea. To them, he is a traitor. But in reality, it's the politicians who are the traitors. They're the ones not serving our interests, and Edward Snowden was serving our interests. It's just a sad state of affairs, and there's a lot that ties into that we're going to talk about. But right now, I want to bring on the line.
This is my favorite. Hey, Miss Claire.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
SM was leading up into it, and I'm sorry, I just got so excited when I saw your name pop up. How you been?
Oh, things are crazy right now.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for everyone who doesn't know, Claire, you are actually located in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my home. I've been here for like over 30 years.
And the situation that we've talked about here a little bit with Sam DuBose is just on the University of Cincinnati is actually where it happened. Was it on campus or was it an officer? I'll just let you take it away. You know more about this. You're on the ground, so.
Yeah, okay. So University of Cincinnati campus police have kind of an agreement. I don't believe it's a formal agreement, although that's not entirely clear from when I was trying to research this. They have agreed because UC's student population is like 43,000, so they kind of have to patrol the students and keep students' safety in mind. So they patrol outside the boundaries of campus itself into the city a little bit, and sometimes the city has to come onto the campus to help the campus police. So it's kind of a loose understanding. So the campus cops have the ability to make some basic traffic stops and, that kind of thing. And what happened was, and I can tell you because I lived right where he was pulled over, it's like maybe a block and a half away from the campus itself. And the UC cop saw Sam DuBose driving, And in Ohio, you're required to have a front license plate, and he did not. I guess it was missing. So he went to make the traffic stop. And according to police, at least, he traveled for maybe a mile or so before actually pulling over. We don't know why. It wasn't a chase or anything. That's just all they said. So he pulls him over for that reason and repeatedly asked Mr. DuBose for his license. And I guess in fumbling for his license, looking around for it or something, he apparently produced instead, according to police, a bottle of, and now they're calling it unopened alcohol. Like, it must have been like a package he bought from the store or something and just hadn't opened it yet. So we don't know. It sounds to me like he was just fumbling around and, mistook it or something. And then I guess here's where the controversy comes in, because the officer was wearing a body cam, and there was kind of a struggle of some sort where Mr. DuBose was in the car, the officer was outside of the car. We don't really know what the struggle was about, or really much of anything, because the police have been very tight-lipped about this. Now, this is where the controversy comes in, because something happened where the officer ended up with torn knees and bumped up knees and torn uniform on the knees of his uniform, and he shot Sam DuBose one time. I guess he aimed really well, or I'm not really sure what happened, but he shot him right in the head and he died immediately. And we know the car traveled down the road for, I think they said, I'm not really sure, but not very far, but it went down the road some and then came to a stop. But he basically died when he was shot. Now, the thing is, the police, if it's really that simple of a story, it doesn't make much sense why the police haven't released the tape. They're saying, it's an investigation, particularly because of the weird arrangement between the two police departments and all of this. But there have been changing stories about the officer's injuries. That's why I made it a point. So it's kind of
Cincinnati Police Chief Jeffrey Blackwell, after seeing the footage, came out and just said that the video was not good.
Right.
It's not good at all. He said, the city manager said it, and the city manager is a guy named by the name of Harry Black. And he just said, this is not a good situation. It is a tragic situation. Someone has died that did not necessarily need to die.
I don't like that word necessarily, though, because I don't see how somebody getting pulled over for a traffic stop, again, it seems like this is I'm thoroughly disgusted by this, and I'm sure the two of you are as well. When's this going to stop?
This is just, it's getting insane. It's so beyond, dystopia right now. It's insane. But just 2 hours ago, the officer's lawyer actually went and gave a bit of a press release and said that he fully expects for the officer to be indicted for murder. So the thing is, now, Cincinnati actually, it's been maybe a year, I guess. It's been a year since Michael Brown, and that kind of exploded the police brutality issue onto the scene. And it's had a lot of, highlights and a lot of public attention since then. But Cincinnati has a long history of problems with police. And this is reminding a lot of people in the city about somebody named Timothy Thomas, who was fatally shot by officers in what was at one time kind of a bad area of town. But he was unarmed, and he was reaching to pull up his pants or something like that, and the officer just shot him in a dark alley, and there was really no just cause for it at all. And it caused days of violent rioting back in 2001. And people are comparing these two things because there is no justification for this. So it's, the family is calling for peace no matter what the tape shows, but
I think it's pretty obvious that the tape is especially with the statement by the police chief and the city manager, that the tape is going to show something that people don't want to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. It most certainly is, and it's going to show that the officer, they keep saying over and over and over again that he was afraid he was going to die, but no. He was in the car. They knew he was unarmed at the time, too. The officer actually said he saw no evidence of a weapon. He didn't even believe that Mr. DuBose had a weapon. So it's just insane. I just can't imagine what's going to happen next. I'm really hoping the city just stays calm and keeps their head, but at the same time, this police brutality and murder issue is just out of hand. So I understand the anger, but...
And it appears that this was a murder, especially if they're already discussing charging him with murder this early on, and you're not getting anybody really coming out and defending this cop. Now, you've stated since this happened, you've reiterated on air and off air how Cincinnati's notorious for riots over situations like this.
Yes.
Do you feel like if they, get out in front of this and say, look, this has nothing to do with the police department, this has nothing to do with us, with justice, this is murder, and we're trying him for murder, do you think that will keep people in Cincinnati from rioting if they see that the police department is actually saying, okay, yeah, our guy killed somebody and he's going to have to be punished for it?
If it were that, if they had actually done that, if they had said, look, this, if they had come out a lot sooner, because this happened a little while ago, if they would have come forward sooner and said, this is what we think is going to happen, this tape is bad, we need to do the investigation so we can't release it, this is what we're feeling, please be prepared. That would be one thing. But they're doing it now, and it's like a week later or more, and people have had time to kind of stew on this, and, things are raw with the police. It's been a while, but they're fresh in a lot of people's minds, like Timothy Thomas and a bunch of other incidents, too. So I think it helps that they're saying, it's going to be bad. I think that does help, and maybe it'll soften the blow somewhat. But I'm still concerned. People are angry, and, particularly in this city with the resentment that's built up, it's just, I don't know. I think we should be ready for anything, but I really think that people should try to stay peaceful. It's just my hope.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, there's nobody else that gets injured and, over this horrible situation.
Yes, exactly.
And, that's the last thing anybody wants. It definitely appears, from all indications, that, the cop, completely unjustified, shot an innocent guy in the head.
Right.
And
we could see the tape as soon as tomorrow, by the way.
And that's, that's not going to be good, I'm afraid. And,
it will also come out that Mr. DuBose probably had a significant amount of marijuana in his system, too. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get that on the table right now. You heard it here first. The marijuana caused yet another crazy, deranged African-American person to try to kill our brave police officer. I'm very fortunate that there was a body cam involved in this, by the way. As much as I hate the fact that there's footage of this, I'm very, very grateful that there's footage of this.
He would have got this officer would have gotten away with it.
Finally, we're going to see some justice.
Hopefully. We'll see.
But, there has been a lot of victim blaming, too, because he does have a very lengthy record, which I'm not going to bring up. But the thing is, it's like almost entirely, completely non-violent. And everybody that has talked about him, I've spoken through email with one of his family members. They're very gracious people, and everybody said, the neighbors, even his acquaintances, says how he was a very not aggressive individual. He was very friendly and open. His record has nothing to do with it. And there are some, misdemeanor drug possession charges, but people have tried to basically crucify him in the press for it, and I think it's ridiculous.
And this is a guy, too, by the way, that got, engaged a week before?
Yes, exactly. So they were supposed to be planning his wedding, and he was really excited because he had been with the person for a very long time. And instead, they're planning his funeral, and they just had it today, and it's just, I don't know, it breaks my heart. It really does. The thing about this is you say you hope there's justice, but really what you really hope for is to stop seeing situations like this.
Agreed.
We need to stop putting these people in the ground, and, we don't have to have a situation where there may be riots or there may be a cop being tried for murder or not tried for murder. It's like, these families want these people alive.
Yes.
It's just insane.
And who made these police officers judge, juries, and executioners? I mean, going back to the Sandra Bland case, what gives these cops the right? Hey, you need to get out of your car. I told you to put your cigarette out in your car that you're legally allowed to smoke. I want you to put your cigarette out now, and if you don't, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to light you up. I'm I'm gonna tase you. I'm gonna pull you out of your car, and I'm gonna try to give you some trumped up charge. You know why? Because I can.
Well, okay, here's my issue, too, because absolutely. I mean, and she's, like, unimpeachable. But she did nothing wrong. Constitutional lawyers have come and said, she never should have been, pulled over, much less anything else. But at the same time, you look at somebody like Michael Brown, who was totally, slayed in the media and on social media and everything else. But at the same time, he didn't have a weapon. His record should have nothing to do with it. No, people are crucifying the victims. It's the wrong people. They're placing the blame on the wrong people.
It's
the police.
It goes back to he without the first sin cast the first stone. Nobody's perfect, and to say, well, he did this, so he got his head blown off. That's insane.
Right.
Is that where we live in? Is that what kind of country we live in, where it's like you don't get a trial, you don't get anything? We saw you do something wrong, and you flinch, so we're going to blow your head off. Well, that's what you get.
And also
sickening.
too. Well, then let us bring up his record just for a second. Right now, from where we're sitting, I can grab a rock and throw it out the window and hit somebody that's got some misdemeanor drug charges on their record. Come on now.
Exactly.
I mean, in this current police state that we live in these jurisdictions that are hungry for more revenue, for what? We're still trying to figure that one out. Bridges to nowhere, and lining the back pockets of every single politician that's ever served anywhere.
Absolutely.
Which is, it's sick, man. This whole thing's
well,
sick.
Have you ever seen anybody go in front of a judge for their record and be sentenced to death because they have a bunch of misdemeanor drug possession charges?
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Exactly.
But as long as but see, here's the thing: as long as you do it on the street, and it's by somebody in a uniform and a badge, then you get a large majority of the population that doesn't question it. But
Right.
I think those same people, if it did happen in a court of law, I think people would say, how dare you sentence him to death? But when there is no trial and they're just shot, killed, people excuse it.
Mm-hmm. They do. But it kills me because it's blame aimed at the victims of a crime instead of blame aimed at the system that created the militarized cops that feel they have to do this to the citizens. I mean, it's ridiculous. We need a training program. We need to redo training for police because like 90 to 95% of police are trained just like the military, and it's proven that that is the wrong way to do it. It's actually proven that police have less complaints, less instances of violence and everything else when they're trained in the traditional way of classroom education where they learn to understand communities and dynamics and de-escalation. But we don't do that, of course.
Well, and that also goes into the question of the screening process that actually allows these people to become cops. I mean, you can't tell me that all of the resources that we have available to us now, that we can't screen for people that are eventually going to react in ways like this?
Well, yeah, that's part of it, too. And I think that has to do with a lot of hiring because they recruit people based on how aggressive they are, more or less. I mean, those are the videos they use to recruit people. And then they train them like that, and so they see the civilians as others. It's not necessarily like they see them as black and white, but it's like citizens are essentially the enemy because it's military training. I mean, that's how they look at things. And, okay, so I did the article on the cost of police brutality. And finally, now that people are suing for so much money, departments are finally starting to say maybe we should do some risk management training and de-escalation and stuff. It's like, well, human life doesn't matter, but what money does, I don't know.
Ding!
Yeah,
I think we have a winner now.
unfortunately,
I think we have a winner.
Well, I tell you what, Claire, we're going to keep up with you on this, and hopefully things don't get out of control in Cincinnati, and hopefully we don't see on this tape, which I'm afraid we all know what we're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And our thoughts and prayers are definitely up with the family of Sam DuBose and with everybody in Cincinnati right now. And, good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys have a good night.
You too.
Bye, Miss Claire.
Bye.
Let's go ahead and pick up a caller here. Area code 210. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, SM Gibson. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
Hello.
Looks like we lost that call, but yeah, what Claire was talking about, I don't have a good feeling about this. I think we're going to see a cop shoot a guy in the head on tape, and I think it's not going to be good at all.
Well,
I think this could be one of the worst.
I think you
Worst
touched on.
situations
I
we've
think you
seen.
touched on a possible way out, at least for the people, the city of Cincinnati. Now, bear in mind, I want to make sure that all the facts are in, that all the tapes are reviewed, so on and so forth. But I really think if there is some follow through on the fact that there was no reason that this should have wound up the way that it did, and there is an actual criminal trial. Now, I'm not going to speculate on the verdict because, again, I don't have all the facts. I haven't seen the tape. You haven't seen the tape, so we don't know exactly what's on the tape. However, the anecdotes that we have from the city officials from Cincinnati, it's their own words. It's not good.
Well, a little bit of things I've heard here and there, and I don't know any of this, and we're going to see it once the tape comes out, but I have heard through a few various different sources, and again, I haven't seen the tape, that the officer's injuries actually come after the shot is fired.
Well, it sounds like the knee's torn up. It sounds like if the car traveled, then possibly he shot him, the guy slumped over in the wheel, the car took off, and he was still hanging on or got snagged up somehow.
That's pretty much what I have put together, and we will see. The thing about it is this is a situation that needs to be taken care of immediately. And what Claire said was right. We shouldn't be having to wait a week later, a week and a half later, 2 weeks later, whatever it is. If it's clear what's on this tape, why isn't this cop already sitting in jail right now?
I think Claire hit it on the head is because we all know it's going to cause a riot. It really is. People are absolutely incensed. And you know,
They need to be.
And not just from the previous case that you listed from the early 2000s. We're talking about what we're seeing daily, what we talk about every single time we broadcast this show.
668 people have been shot by cops this year. Not shot, killed. Let me rephrase that. Killed, 668.
Dead. And again, not all of those died by gunfire from police. Police have all sorts of ways to mess your ass up.
But you know, and here's the thing, not 668 people, you know, were innocent of zero crime, but at the same time, unless you're sitting there legitimately threatening someone's life, it's like she said, with Michael Brown, okay, so he robbed the store. Everybody knows he robbed the store. Is that a death sentence? No. But
absolutely not. And again, and here we are, we're talking about a case. It sounds like this was a traffic stop. And again, we
for
can
not having a front license plate.
And again, though, it is an offense. It's a way that they can collect revenue. That's and we can sit and argue whether that should be a law at all. Which here in Alabama, we only have to have one license plate on the rear of our vehicle. That's it, because that's usually what the cops will see right behind you. No, in Ohio, apparently you have to have a front license plate so they can get in front of you and see your license plate from behind, and they can go ahead and stop and pull you over from the top. It's actually ingenious because you double your revenue potential if you do it like that. Oh, okay, yeah, that's a guy that's in our system. Let me stop and let me toss through his car and let me ask him a bunch of uncomfortable, unconstitutional questions and see if I can't go ahead and get some sort of revenue out of this situation for my city. That's what effective police work in 2015 is: revenue collection. That is it.
Well, what's sad too.
And if you want to argue with the revenue collector, he has a right to kill your ass, to kill you.
I mean, it's just sad, you know.
Ask the police officers that were involved in Eric Garner's death that are still roaming the streets of New York right now. Well, they're probably riding a death job right now because it's a high-profile case. Or the cop that shot Tamir Rice with only a fraction of a second's warning.
And we're talking about, you know, the two most recent we're talking about is Samuel Bland, which, you know, we don't know the full details of that. There's a lot of speculation here and there. But this is what we do know about that situation is she shouldn't have been arrested at all, period. The entire incident is on videotape. There was no reason for her to be arrested. We know that. We know that. Regardless of what happened once she was in jail, we know she should not have been arrested.
Absolutely.
Area code 607. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, SM Gibson. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
Hello. Folks are shy tonight, apparently.
They are a bit. So, I'm just kind of taken aback. Just sitting here thinking about it, I just think it's going to be the worst we've seen. And I don't understand why the whole country is just repeating everything that is coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. Look, I'll be the first person to tell you, that's super entertaining, super amusing. It's crazy. It's a sideshow. It's, the carnival barkers and the circus. But there are real things going on in the street. There is real news happening. The government's really coming for your rights. We talked about at the beginning of the show. Obama, yeah, whatever, Edward Snowden. Guess what? Sorry, we don't care. We don't care what 167,000 people signed a petition to get you pardoned. They don't care. They don't care about your rights whatsoever. They're also trying to pass CISPA for the people that don't remember that. Your internet freedoms, it's now being repackaged, retooled, and renamed CISA, which is CISA.
You big sissa.
But it's basically the exact same situation. Nothing that they obtain from it you're going to be able to get from the Freedom of Information Act. It's just, I don't know what's wrong with people. Again. Area code 845. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, SM Gibson. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
This is David, and I am from Kingston, New York.
David, what would you like to talk about this evening?
What would I like to talk about this evening? Okay, I have a theory for you. What if the media ratings are what determines our political elections?
It's an interesting theory, but I don't think...
No, in a roundabout way, he's kind of right. I mean, if you think about right now we're sitting here, we have the Fox News in the background, and this is just...
It's laughable.
It's so angry and violent, even with the sound on it. And I'm looking over here, and we're seeing Donald Trump and seeing this fellow with a nice haircut and and a nice smile and very, very nice tan skin. And Mr. O'Reilly, the wise old man. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing this, though, and with what you're saying is basically you're saying that, okay, so if Fox News wasn't getting good ratings when Donald Trump is on the screen, that they would go ahead and just completely quit talking about him altogether. Man, what was that fellow's name that ran in 2012? Ron Paul. Oh, yeah. Everybody was talking about Ron Paul for about 3 weeks. Because he was
they blacklisted him.
Then they blacklisted him.
Absolutely. Absolutely they did.
But see, look at, especially 2012, it wasn't even just a blacklisting of him. They would talk about different candidates. You know, they would talk about Herman Cain a lot. They would talk about Newt Gingrich some.
You mean Token?
But they would talk about these different candidates, but every time they would talk about them, they would end up by saying, well, it really doesn't matter because Mitt Romney's going to get the nomination anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but if you say it enough times, it must be true, right?
It's the way it seems.
That's why I keep bringing Vermin Supreme's name up. The guy's got a boot for a hat and gives out free candy. If that's not the greatest candidate that's come along in the past 50 to 75 years, I'll kiss your ass. I'm just saying.
He's probably the most genuine candidate we've had in a while.
He's got a boot on his head.
Bernie Sanders? You're talking about Bernie Sanders?
Vermin Supreme. Look him up. Vermin Supreme. Everybody that's listening needs to look him up on YouTube now. He is the real...
Who is this person?
This is a guy. He ran in 2012. He goes by the name of Vermin Supreme. He has a giant rubber boot on his head and a very long Gandalf-type beard. And he is just there in the race to basically make fun of all the other candidates and the entire election process.
And accidentally, he wound up being probably the best choice for candidate. Manny talks about a lot. Manny talks about let's vote for no one. This guy is even better than no one, man. He's got a boot on his head.
Right? Who better than none of the above, right?
It's very true, very true.
And there's and none of the above will ever give you free candy. This guy passes out.
He does. He does pass out free candy, but so do to men and van to children. So.
Well, what about Obama phones? Come on.
Yeah. Well.
Hey, that's true. Think about all the free stuff that everybody's gotten with healthcare. Remember, we all got free healthcare. Remember how it worked out for everybody?
Yeah. Unless you don't have healthcare, then you gotta then you're
everybody. We're living in a utopia. Yeah. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, David.
Thanks, Obama.
Thanks so much for calling in tonight. You have a good evening, sir.
Oh, hey.
But
Vermin Supreme.
You're all about it.
I'm sorry. There is no reason why everybody shouldn't be about it.
I'm amused at how amused you are at Vermin Supreme.
I'm amused at how amused you are, Donald Trump. Let's try that on for size.
But it's theater. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but this is a boot on his head.
But they don't know what they're doing, theater. Vermin Supreme knows what he's doing.
And
again,
theater. That's
those clowns don't get it.
That is why he is a viable presidential candidate for 2016. I leave it there.
He is probably the most genuine. I will not argue with you on that one. So, back to the CISPA thing real quick. We fought it once before. It's now CISA, C-I-S-A. It's the Cyber Intelligence Sharing Act.
Sharing.
Yeah, buddy.
Sharing is caring.
See if this sounds familiar, Shannon. It kind of mirrors something called the Freedom Act. And what it does is it allows corporations to collect private data from you or from me.
Private data. Private.
Yeah. And then this data that is collected can then be shared with a government agency, who then, in turn, can share it with any sector of the government that it likes. And it doesn't have to fall under any FOIA request. They don't have to turn over any of this information. It's just, whatever.
Can share? How about will share?
It
will.
And it's just the Patriot Act.
Freedom.
Handed over to the private companies, which is what the Freedom Act is. We're just so screwed. And nobody realizes what's going on here. There's no freedoms left. There is no Fourth Amendment. There is no privacy. There is no anything. The way I'm sitting here talking to you, Shannon, and all of our listeners out here can hear us talking, okay, we might as well be having a private conversation on the telephone because that can still be heard by a lot of people as well. And they can share it around.
And if you happen to mention a few keywords, trust me, there's a few people going to automatically,
you might even get, if you're lonely, you might
tune in. See, hey, let's see what this is all about right here.
Yeah, you might even get a knock on the door. This is the Orwellian 1984 state that we're living in. No one wants to acknowledge it. No one wants to realize that they think if they ignore it or they go on about living their life, I've got to worry about this. I've got to worry about this. And fair enough. People have their daily things that they have to worry about. That's fine. But at the same time, people need to at least acknowledge what's going on here. Don't have their head in the sand and turn around, once every 4 years and say, well, I like this candidate. I think he's going to do all right. When was the last time we had a candidate that came in and did all right? That didn't just completely lie to the American people, their presidency didn't result in a lot of innocent people being killed. that didn't end with corporations getting their pockets lined. Can you believe that Hillary Clinton is just coming out and just bashing Wall Street and, oh, she's going to rein in Wall Street and the greed of Wall Street and just on and on and on. Meanwhile, 5 of her top 10 financial donors are all from Wall Street.
No.
How does anybody believe this anymore?
Angry teenage girl mad at their mama. Yeah.
How is anybody...
I hate you, Mom. I love you.
How is anybody buying this?
You make great muffins, Mama. I wonder how many lobster dinners...
They can say anything. They can say anything.
And will.
And people... But it's not even that they say anything. It's that people believe it. Do you realize how many people will vote for Hillary Clinton in the next election?
And not get a single piece of free candy.
No.
Not one. Furman Springs,
and you can listen. Hillary Clinton is horribly despicable, but this isn't just to pick on her. We could go down the list of pretty much all the candidates.
You don't want to pick on her too hard because she will have you shot.
Now, who cares? I got your Vince Fosters right here.
No, you didn't.
But people will vote for her because, well, she's Bill's wife. Well, she's a smart lady. She was a senator, and then she was Secretary of State.
Bill is Hillary's husband. Let's get that straight right now. No misogyny now.
I know, jeez. People are going to vote for her. People are going to vote for Jeb Bush. People are going to vote for Marco Rubio. People are going to vote for these people.
Yeah.
Why? I get it. If you're related to them and you, could get something on, the back end of it all. But, if you don't know these people, what are you going to get other than more headaches and more lies?
And how freaking surrealistic is it going to be if Donald Trump actually makes a successful bid and is standing there at the podium debating Hillary Clinton with foreign affairs?
And what does she have? Okay, everybody's... the argument you get for, she was Secretary of State, blah, blah. What did she do as Secretary of State? What did she do? What did she do as a senator? Nothing. Nothing. The only time a Clinton goes anywhere, scandal follows. Bill was at least good at digging himself out of his own mess.
And let's not mention a trail of dead bodies. Go ahead.
He was such a good quote-unquote politician and could talk his way out of most situations, not all of them. Again, he was disbarred. He was impeached. He did lie under oath. But most situations he could talk his way out of. Hillary can't do that. Hillary's not the people person he is. She's not the politician, quote-unquote, that he is. I'll tell you this, when Rand Paul was questioned over the Benghazi thing, and, it's now famous and she lost it, what difference does it make? And it's the soundbite. And some people say it's out of context. Some people just say she's talking about, what difference does it make and how horrible it sounds. I think the most important thing is that she is not cut out to be in a politician's line of work because she doesn't have the demeanor for it. Could you ever, Shannon, ever see Bill Clinton blowing up like that, screaming, what difference does it make? He would have kicked his legs back on the table and smoked a cigar. Yeah.
You just make a bunch of dude, not about nothing. Here,
right.
Sit down, bud. Have a cigar with me.
So, I don't know. I don't know who's going to vote for any of these people, but they are. They're out there. We all know. We all know people that are just like, well, they're going to do right by us. They're going to do right by us. When are people going to wake up and start putting the responsibility for what's going on in the world and their lives in other people's hands and the hands of sociopaths that are just trying to achieve more and more power for their own gain, for their own selfish gain, that are completely in bed with all these corporations? Hillary Clinton saying she's going after Wall Street. What a joke. There's nothing to even look into with that. You go to opensecrets.org, there it all is. 5 of the top 10 donors. Guess what, Wall Street? She's not going to do anything against Wall Street, period, at all.
Absolutely not.
She's going to take us into more war. She's going to be just like a Bush. Like what you think a Bush would do, that's what she's going to do too. And yes, that's what Jeb Bush is going to do too. And that's what Marco Rubio is going to do too. But she's no different. The Bushes are no different. They're all the same. It's all theater.
There's quite a bit of money to be made there for all of those people. And again, that's why I keep.
But it's more than money, Shane. It's more than money because yes, there's money to be made, but we're talking about people with lots of money. This is about
to the point
ego.
Where money doesn't even matter.
Money.
Anymore.
This is about ego. This is about power. This is about their own legacy, I suppose, in their own psychotic brain. You know,
and both the Bushes and the Clintons are all about legacy. Let's get
all about it. Very, very similar. Especially if we see a Clinton and a Bush run against each other again.
Chelsea, you're not white trash no more, baby. Mom's going to take care of you.
I
said it.
I won't get into it, but I heard a fascinating story about Chelsea Clinton a couple weeks ago.
I don't think we need to talk about that. I'm sorry.
I will not.
I'm usually with you on most accounts, but this one.
Hey, I'm not saying whatever. We won't go there.
Probably why. I think you're right, but
that's for the after show. We'll talk about all that. So, what do you think is going to come of the theater of everything that's going on right now? When do the people rise up and say, we're sick of this? And I think that's supposedly what this whole Trump sideshow is about, is people are sick of the quote-unquote regular politicians. So there's just some lunatic out there running his mouth, and he can literally say anything. And because he's not a politician, and he's willing to badmouth the politicians, which, fair enough to that.
Sounds like somebody else that we were talking about before the show that we need to talk about, and that's Edward Snowden. As far as people getting actually very upset and starting to get active and filling out petitions, let's say, to have Edward Snowden pardoned. Well, you want to go ahead and deliver the news on that one?
Well, that's what we talked about. The White House right now, again, from the president, who said he's going to protect whistleblowers. That's what the United States is about. This is what freedom is about. We don't want to have secrecy. We want to have transparency. I'm going to look out for these people. Well, obviously, Edward Snowden is the most famous whistleblower, maybe in not even American history, but in world history, at least in modern times, absolutely. He's doing nothing to help him. He's leaving him over there to rot. They call him a traitor. The petition makes it to the White House. 167,000 people signed. They're just like, tough luck. Who cares? He's a traitor.
I think he got wiped his ass with it or something.
I'm sure that's what happened. And I hate to mention his name one more time, but
and that's what
Donald Trump suggested that they execute Edward Snowden.
Yeah, go vote for that guy.
Execute. What? Where are we living? What is this? How do we even go on and have a rational conversation, intelligent thoughts? How do we not just have aneurysms? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It's all theater. It's all a sideshow. It's all an illusion. And people are eating it up. I'm so sick of it. And it starts with me. It starts with you. It starts with talking to your neighbors. It starts with talking to your friends. The people in Washington are not going to save you. They're not going to fix this mess. They're the people that created this mess. Actually, the people that created this mess were the American people that went to sleep and allowed all this to go on for so long, and now that it's...
And allowed themselves to be manipulated, I might add, through this, bullshit two-party system.
That's exactly.
Now we have, if you're going to be a Republican, then you have to have this set of criteria. You have to have these morals. You need to be thinking socially about this. You need to think that this is wrong and this is bad, and so on and so forth. And then on the other side of the fence, no, the other side is completely wrong because you got to do this, you got to do that, so on and so forth. What happens to all of us in the middle? What happens to the people that are pro-choice rather than pro-life? What happens to the people that are gay instead of straight? What's happened to the people that, worship the Hindu religion versus the Christian religion? What happens to all of us in the middle? The choice is clear. Free candy, Birmingham Spring.
Area code 347. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, SM Gibson. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
Oh, hey, how you doing? I'm Joey. I'm from Queens, New York.
Joey from Queens, New York. Tell us what's in your mind tonight.
Well, I just popped on your program, and I heard you say that like talk to your neighbors, talk to other people. I always find that one of the problems when I do try to talk to other people about certain things in politics, whatever side of the issue, is that as soon as, everything's so black and white to everybody, everyone's so immediately polarized.
That's exactly
whenever you bring something up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And every time, you'll say something, and they'll immediately turn everything you say from that point on off. Because they heard one thing you don't like, and they assume you believe all these other things because you said this one thing, and they just totally close themselves off, and they're not even willing to have a discussion or debate about a topic. They're just looking for an argument, or they turn it into an argument.
And looking to, I don't even think, they are looking for an argument, but I think at the same time, they're looking to go ahead and judge out of the gate. Tell me how many times this has happened to you, Joey. It happens to me 3 times a day. I'll say something, and, all of a sudden, well, you must be a hardcore Republican, you must love Bush, that whole situation. Then I'll turn around and say something else. Oh, you're an Obama lover, you love the Democratic Party, you're liberal. It's like 1 second, I'm watching Sean Hannity, and the next second, I'm in love with Chris Matthews.
Me too. Yeah.
And nobody wants to think for themselves. They just want to repeat the ideologies that are shoved down their throat because to them, there's only 2 lanes to be in. You're in the red lane or you're in the blue lane, and nobody wants to get outside of that and think for themselves.
Right. That's ultimately what the problem is that they're not thinking for themselves. Me personally, I'm socially liberal. I'm more fiscally middle of the road. I watch Ed Schultz, and I listen to Mark Levin and Mike Savage. So I don't even fall anywhere within their preconceived notions.
And people have such a difficult time grasping that concept that you can believe in different things.
Right. And another thing is, I can be in favor of a particular candidate, but I don't have to like or agree with every single thing they say or every proposal that they put forth. And if you do have to agree with everything that this person is doing,
you're not going to
not thinking for yourself at all.
You're not. And you're not going to find any candidate at all, period, or anybody. Think, just your friends, your family. Who do you agree with on every single topic?
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So, you voted for Obama, so you must agree with this, and you must think this. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of things he did that I don't like. There's a lot of things he did that I do like, but I make up my mind for myself.
That's very true. I think with Obama, too, especially in 2008, people got so wrapped up in the rhetoric because a lot of what Obama was saying in 2008 sounded great. It's like we were talking about Edward Snowden. He was talking about the whistleblowers, we're going to protect them. It just turns out that everything he said turned out not to be, he didn't do what he said.
Something to help him get in the door. That was about it. And he manipulated the American people that voted for him to do so. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, thank you so much for the call tonight, and thank you for tuning in. And I hope you have a good evening, sir.
Yeah, well. And again, this is at the heart of the matter of why we're seeing problems with race relations. This is at the heart of the matter with why we have this big political division why we have all of this religious division, why we have all of this division as a whole. It's because people are automatically get so butthurt when somebody says something that they don't like. Nobody stops and actually considers what's coming out of somebody's mouth, where they're coming from with it, why or how their opinion is shaped the way that it is. Because everybody else, you know, when you look in the mirror, you're the only important person in this conversation. I'm just going to go ahead and breeze through what you got to say and then go ahead and give you, let me explain to you why you're wrong. And instead of actually stopping to listen to some folks, and look, and we both know that when somebody's coming at you with a load of crap, but when somebody comes at me with a differing opinion and gives it to me in a straightforward, semi-intelligent manner, I'm going to stop and take a listen for a minute, because I always accept the possibility that, you know what, I could be wrong. And I've been proven wrong on many, many, many different subjects throughout my life. And that's why I'm going to stop and listen to what somebody else has got to say. Now, I'm still going to make an informed opinion no matter what.
But do you not remember the old playground, schoolyard saying, though? It's, how did it go? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names and when you disagree with me actually hurt way worse, and now I have to fight you over it.
Yeah, and possibly take you to court over a libelous thing that you said toward me that really, really, really just damaged my ego and damaged my psyche.
You disagreed with me.
Yeah, quit being so butthurt, America. Try that on for size.
It's true.
Vermin Supreme ain't butthurt. Hey, I gotta bring this up before I forget. I wanted to do this before the show ended tonight. The ACLU now has a police brutality app, and I strongly, strongly recommend that every single American citizen that's listening to this broadcast, tell all your friends, neighbors, family members to get this app. And it's not just about protecting against police brutality. I think that there's other useful uses for this app. But essentially what it does is that you pull the app up when you're being pulled over to film whatever police officer. Now, we've seen many videos of police officers immediately reaching out for the camera, smashing the phone, regardless of whatever consequence they'll endure, to make sure that that footage of their illegal activity is not broadcast on the internet or spread throughout. And basically, you pointed at the situation when the police reaches out. You hit your phone very quickly. There's a little button on there that'll immediately upload that video to the ACLU website from the state that you downloaded from. Not all states have it. Alabama doesn't have one yet, so I went ahead and downloaded the Mississippi one. I think it'll still be just as effective for what it's going to have to be used for. God forbid if it ever has to be used at all. It's something that and it's not like I'm going to go out and start looking for situations, but I guarantee you I'm going to start filming every single interaction I have with the police, because I'm not going to wind up like Sandra Bland. And if I do, well, then I've got a team of lawyers that have already reviewed the video evidence, and we go to bat with it.
Unfortunately, we're in the situation now in 2015 that all Americans everywhere need to be filming their interactions with police officers.
The technology works both ways, and I still say that every single police officer and every single police cruiser be fully equipped with not just your normal dash cam. I think there needs to be about 8 or 9 different cameras planted throughout police cars and all around the perimeter of police cars. And I say that also for the police officer's safety and for the liability of the cities to keep them from going through frivolous lawsuits. But more importantly, and it needs to be a bunch of cameras that police officers have no control as to whether they can turn on or off. I think that's absolutely ludicrous, because any other city or county employee is not able to reach up when they're sitting or working the desk at the revenue department, reach up and turn off the camera that's filming them handling money. Because essentially that's what police do anyways, is handle money all day long.
Oh, come on.
Oh,
the camera
just
happened. It just happened to mess up. But I tell you what, join Nick Burnaby tomorrow night for Anti-Media Radio here on UCY.TV, and me and Shannon will be back on Thursday.
Vermin Supreme 2016.
Peace out.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go